sorry for the delay. Thank you all for being here, those online and those in person. April 23, Flathead Reservation Water Management Board meeting. So start with an opening prayer. George, would you be willing to give us an opening prayer today? Thank you.
Dear Lord Jesus, thank you for this gathering of people here today. Help us all to use our knowledge of what we know to make things better, go smoothly. Bless us all, care for us all. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay. As always, the meeting minutes are on the Flathead Reservation Water Management Board website at FRWMB.gov. Any potential conflicts of interests? So if you've had a chance to look at the agenda, please, if you have anything of note there, please let us know, George.
No. No.
Ken? No. Roger?
No.
And that's it. None for me. So attendance, please.
George McLeod.
Here.
Ken Pitt. Here. Wade Matt.
Here.
Roger Noble.
Here.
And Shane Hendrickson is absent, and George Smees is also absent today.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to adopt the agenda. So any comments, questions, changes, or suggestions for the agenda? If not, when you're ready, we'll take a motion to adopt today's agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Motion by George.
I'll second.
Second by Roger. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have an agenda. Public comment for items not on the agenda. Any public to comment? There's none in the audience. Anybody online?
Just staff members online.
Okay. Seeing no public to comment. We'll move on to item number 3, board business, approving meeting agenda minutes from April 23. So let's start with that. We'll take a look at those minutes. When you're ready, we'll take a motion to approve.
April 10th. April 10th, yeah.
Did I read it wrong?
Yeah, today's the 23rd. That's could be April 10th, right?
I'm just reading from the agenda, so that's right. That's exactly right. So the April 10.
A correction to the agenda.
So that was a good catch. Thank you. So we are approving meeting minutes from April 10, day the 23rd. Ethan at the bottom says miscellaneous board directions. So during your update, you can get us caught up on those as well.
On the miscellaneous board directions?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Make sure we know where we're at with those. Comments or changes to the April 10 minutes? 5.2 where it says board directed OE and legal to receive this resolution. Is that receive or review?
Which section was that?
5.2. The board directed OE and legal to receive this resolution. Is that review? You meant resolve?
Yeah, resolve would be the better choice.
Okay.
Apologies, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else?
I guess on 5.3, we had some discussion on that and decided not to get involved, as I recall. So, I mean, we might want to add something to that effect.
Okay. Want to suggest some language?
Oh,
You go to board consensus to not provide comment from the board's legal team.
right. That's close enough. That'll work.
Can we add that language? Okay. That would be, okay.
Mr. Chairman, board members, was board consensus to not provide comment at this time. Is that?
Yes.
Thank you.
That'll do.
And Mr. Chairman, at this point, I have two items that needed to be modified. One is to add that comment to the notice of motion, and the other is to make a correction from received to resolved.
Yeah, so far.
Okay, just we'll make sure I got everything, Mr. Chairman.
Any comments?
I have two general comments. One, I really have a difficult time reading this green type.
Oh, okay.
And I saw George look like he was struggling a little bit. So if you could use a different color or something. And the other major comment is, can we get these in advance so we could review them in advance? So we're not reviewing them at the meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
Be helpful.
Is blue a good color?
Yeah, like 3 days before or 4 days or something.
So this was in the materials posting that was linked to the agenda when it went out, for what it's worth. We can offer that reminder when
Well, just email them out to the board members, I guess is what I'm asking.
sure.
Motion to approve those whenever you guys are ready. With corrections? With corrections. We can do approve with corrections, okay?
One second.
Second by George. All in favor, say aye.
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 Compensation submissions, 312 through 423. We've got a paper on that, do we?
Couple comments on that one.
Yep. Go ahead, Ken.
On April 10th, I attended that remotely. No mileage. And you don't have April 23rd for me.
You were remote on that day? On the
Yeah.
23rd?
No, today's the 23rd.
Oh, sorry.
That's contagious.
Yeah. Strike that from the record. Thank you, Ken.
And we can approve. Did you happen to go through this with Georgia?
I did. She said that she approved.
Okay, for the record, Georgia has reviewed and approved her section. Any other comments other than Ken's? So with those corrections for Ken, if you're ready, mine's okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We approve the compensation as modified by Ken.
Motion by Roger.
Second.
Second by Ken. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Any other board business? Anything from anyone you want to bring up at this time? Okay. For state-based registrations. The NRC compact coordinator and our water engineer. So Ethan.
Yeah, I'll get things going here and introduce Ben. Thanks. As a quick reminder on what we mean by state-based registrations, when the compact ordinance went forward, it included this section where past filings with the Montana DNRC for exceptions to permits such as 602s or 605 stock water, or exempt uses that predated 1973 were all slated to move forward. And I'll remind folks that most of these were in a suspended or never filed status, primarily because of the CI cases that stopped any new water right issuances on the reservation in the mid-90s. And so our office was set to receive these registrations. The timing has been modified a little bit because of technical challenges have included the challenges with the state, challenges with our office. Primarily, the largest lift has been to get the water rights database up and running, which is an essential tool needed. You probably remember me whining about this before in front of this body, but so we've got that part of things. And then additionally, DNRC had committed to provide what's called a pre-review of these water right applications that were previously received and in the database, some was suspended, and then also received during the 180-day filing period that started at the compact's effective date. And so again, we've got really kind of three main categories of uses. There's the 602 type, which is a groundwater certificate. There's a 605 type, which is a stock water certificate. And then there's this thing called a 222F, which goes back to House Bill 110 filings for previously exempt from filing claims. And if individuals who had such water uses did not file with the state of Montana for the general adjudication, they were allowed to then come in and file as a state-based registration with this office. I hope that that's a decent, quick overview of things. What I was hoping is that Ben, who was very nice to come here today and give us an update, that he'd be able to go over a little bit of like where DNRC's at, and he's provided a couple of tables that you have in your packet that talk about the numbers of these state-based registrations. You also have a printout of the procedures that Montana DNRC has used for what we're calling a pre-review. And then with that all, unless this board has any questions for me right now, I'll go ahead and introduce Ben, who you've met before, but anyway, Ben, come on up. You want to sit as Dan? Or...
Okay, board members, any questions at this point? Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Hey, Ben.
I appreciate it, Ethan. Hello, everyone. My name is Ben Uwaki. I'm the CSKT Compact Coordinator for DNRC. And James, can we go to the third slide? You know, Ethan gave a pretty good update. Or, yeah. Okay, so I just had a broad understanding of these are specifically with the 180-day application, these are the ones that we received between the effective date of September 17th, 2021 to March 16th, 2022. And as Ethan said, you have a well-defined understanding of what our pre-review process is, but just a broad overview. We typically start out looking at cadastral and converge to identify the POD and POU. That'll help us understand where the water basin's at, and also help us understand if there's any like duplicate geocodes that come up on our searches. And then, as Ethan mentioned, we have our 222F, 602F, and 605Fs. And I'll go into some of these breakdowns of what we've received in the next slide. But we just verify those application types within WIRES as we're updating it, include the events of when we received them, when we've been going through this pre-review process, who within the NRC has been conducting that process, putting in applicants' information, contact information, addresses, putting in the file location and processor for where these files are at, when they're there, and when they're going to be transferred over to the board and the OE. And then also documenting payments, and then going into the water rights and putting in POU or POD, POUs, purposes, quantification of volume, flow rates, and all that information. And then, of course, based on whatever applications we get, there's applicants that provide a plethora of documents from the well log reports, deeds, history of uses, well water agreements, to some that we got to do a little bit more digging into our well log data that the state has to identify some of this information. And so some of them, you know, so you could go from an application that might take a couple minutes to towards one that takes 20, 30, you know, it takes a good amount of time to do that, that research.
So the question.
Yeah.
So this applies, as you said, primarily to those referenced as the 180-day filings.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were, I think Ethan talked about the prior ones, the what we'll call the CIOT period filings. Those are different than these.
Mr. Chairman, board members, so they all come in as these state-based registrations. The difference between the 180-day filings and the ones that were already filed with the Montana DNRC is just that Understanding that not everybody thought if they filed a piece of paper with the DNRC that it would go anywhere. Some people just didn't ever file. And so that's why there was that extended filing period offered after the effective date to try to wrangle in anybody who might have had the same type of use developed between the mid-90s and the effective date. And that did not mean that during the 180-day period that water would have already needed to be the well drilled and the water put to use before the effective date, just to help everybody understand that there was no 180-day opportunity to do anything at that time, but file for something that existed already.
Okay. So did the quote CIADI applications go through this already?
Yeah, I mean, the NRC considers those suspended registrations.
Okay, and but they went through this, and this is the first time these applications will have gone through this.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So we go to the next slide.
All right.
And this is just a quantification of how many applications we received, which different water application types they were. You'll see on the top in the gray, there's a section or column titled undefined. And just wanted to clarify that's there because the person who input that information didn't define out that water type. So we'll have to just go in that information. But and then also yet to complete are those that are still needing to be pre-reviewed, but just as an update right now, this was from last week. And this is just to give you an idea about the progress that we're making internally. Right now it says 358, but I just did a tally real quick right now, and we've got a couple of compliance technicians that I thought we're working on right now. And right now we're at 293. So just to give you an idea of what that process or, that progress was like in a week. So we're hoping to get that finalized fairly soon.
Any questions? So Ethan, your initial introduction to this, you said there were the form 602, 605, and then 222F. Did you mean they all have an F, and what is the F?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, the F is what we've done here to designate water rights that are on the Flathead Indian Reservation in the Montana Water Rights database is to just add an F.
Okay.
And that helps to distinguish. And I'm not sure, Ben, if your presentation has the previous filings. You sent me a spreadsheet that had
the suspendeds.
Had the suspendeds also, and I noticed that I thought that one was going to be in our packet, but maybe it might have slipped through.
I can send that back to you, and then we can just update.
That's good. I'll also double check. James Butler will just open it from the meeting folder this week. Oh, it's not in there.
Remind us again quickly. The 602 is
Growing waters.
It's an exempt.
And 605 is
An exempt stock water right.
And 222.
Yeah, and just I'm looking at that spreadsheet right now. So in addition, Mr. Chairman, board, because we're going to have to see all of these, the ones that were filed and then the 180-day ones, and the total count on the suspended registrations is 1,346. So in addition to the total here of 1,147, we have another 1,326. Actually, 1,304. Oh, yep. My apologies. I didn't read the table right.
I didn't hear.
Thank you.
I didn't hear your explanation of the 222. What is that?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, board members, Program Fit, the 222F is it references the Montana Code annotated section that cites to exempt uses that were very specific to domestic and direct from source stock that were pre-73 uses that were not required by the Montana Water Court to be filed in the general indication the way an irrigation right or other beneficial use right was required to be filed. And as such, there have been different periods in which the water court has opened up late filings for those uses so that somebody could go from having what is essentially an unrecorded use of water that is exempt from the filing requirements to obtaining an actual water right.
So exempt use, domestic source excluded from
by the Montana Water Court, no longer excluded from filing on the Flathead Indian Reservation after the effective date of the compact. So most of these did get already handled through a pretty substantial effort made by the state of Montana, DNRC, the Montana Water Court, to have folks come in and go ahead and get them all lined out. But there was an additional bite at that apple, final bite at that apple during the 180-day filing period. I hope I've done an all right job answering your question.
I just wanted to know what the form is.
Sure.
Any other questions? Next slide, and this will just wrap it up. So as I mentioned, we have 4 compliance techs in Helena that are helping do this pre-review process. And now, as I mentioned, we have 293 left to conduct. And the next steps are to transfer all of the suspended and 180-day registrations to Helena, to our records department. And then they'll go through the scanning process to get them up into FileNet, so that way they'll be publicly searchable on Virus, our WRQS. And then once we have those scanned, then we'll be transferring them over to the board and the OE. And we're working, that's part of the process that we've been developing with the MOU for Virus access that then ties into like the best practices when it comes to scanning and record retention. And those are 2 processes that we're working through right now. So
is FileNet the same as Virus?
it's like a subsection of it where like all the scanned documents will be uploaded to, and then they become publicly available.
So all of these will get entered into Virus though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the maybe a little picky question. 180-day registrations, the DNRC repertoire and Helena to be scanned. And let's see, what am I missing here? Okay. No. Okay.
Can you go back to that previous slide for 1 second? So Ben, looks like there's issues with some of these.
Yeah.
Do you send out deficiency letters or something to that effect, or how do you?
But we're just doing that pre-review process so we can identify those for when we transfer it over to the board.
I see.
So that way when they pull it up, they'll be able to kind of pinpoint where those deficiencies might exist.
Okay.
So we're looking at a total of 2,740.
Yep. Go for it.
When you enter them into the water rights database, will they be in suspended status or active?
Pending?
Pending,
Not active.
not active. Okay.
And so just to help with the understanding the process, is DNRC's done as good a job as they can trying to get these initial filings looked at, but I'm not trying to put words in DNRC's mouth, but basically where they draw the line on the jurisdiction of this is that claimant contact and additional review that would lead to either modification, issuance, denial. That all has to happen out of this office.
Happen here.
Yeah, and so we're very appreciative that a lot of this legwork has happened in advance of us receiving this. Even though it's still a lot of work, it would be even more if we had roughly the people hours that the NRC spent getting these things to this level is substantial. So appreciate that for sure. That said, though, every one of those issues that is there, that'll be a letter or a contact or something, an action that has to happen out of here to figure out what's going on with each one of these. And additionally, even if it was a slam dunk, we would still at a minimum need to issue all of them. So you just put a stack of water right issuances. It's big. It's a big stack.
That was my next question is do we take that next step? Will we actually issue something then? So
we absolutely are charged with that responsibility.
Okay.
And to either issue, deny, or maybe modify an issue, something to that effect, depending on what we find at when we go from pre-review to actual review. And there may be some of these that maybe they don't qualify as something that you could have registered. There may be, the vast majority of them are pretty simple to review and move along. But it's going to take a significant amount of work from this office to address all of these, which is why I had a few items on this topic, which include, the transfer, and I'm hoping that we're able to work with DNRC to do staggered batches instead of a giant cascade of all of them at the same time. And this is ultimately what'll, we're working still on the state-based registrations, water policy and procedures, which we need to have in place. So that we will have those standards just like we would for domestic allowance. And when we see something coming in the door, we know what to do on these stock occurrences, from long file form, how to handle ownership issues, how to handle situations where maybe that house wasn't there at the effective date. Those kind of situations, we'll try to line those out, and we'll see those policies in the WP&P and be able to give us guidance towards finding something that's meets your approval. And it does also leave us with we need to kind of do some work on infrastructure. At a minimum, I got to buy some file cabinets, which seems pretty basic, but it's notable. On a larger scale, we are learning from DNRC where they're at in their updated procedures for file storage for these types of water rights. They've switched primarily to digital archiving of 602s, of 605s, and not retaining these an older method of having a hard copy file for each one of these stored in a file location. And we're going to need to navigate how we're going to handle either those pieces of paper or the digital files, because whatever we decide to do has got to be very organized and very methodical, so that the information, none of the information is lost. We can have a way that 50 years down the line, somebody's going to be able to see what was received, how it was processed, what occurred with that when they would any other water right application.
Questions? Roger, did you get your questions answered?
Yeah, I just had comment, I guess. To me, if you wanna receive these in batches, it would seem like you'd wanna start with the ones that are correct and complete initially, so that you can take the low hanging fruit and dispatch of those pretty quickly and get water rights issued, and then get into the more complicated ones.
That certainly is one approach. The other approach is to start with the oldest filed first and move forward in time. I'm not sure what to do yet, but the reason on the timing is that we do think people have thought that their old filing was just lost, and so they refiled. And so the faster you can identify redundancy in a filing,
Duplicates.
that will help to eliminate, that as soon as you find out something's duplicate, you just went from 2 to 1, right? And so that's a good one. But your comment about taking the easy ones first is certainly something that we have thought about as a pretty good approach also. The other part of that, though, is that we'll need to work with DNRC. They're going to want to have some say in the organized fashion in which those are transferred to us also. And so we'll see what the options are, and probably you'll see an MOU that outlines those options that we'll be asking you to either modify or sign, because it will need to be have some formality to it.
Well, any other question? Bigger picture question for me. So what has been and what is the legal status of the 602, 605, and 222s at present? When you say they're suspended or pending until they're issued, they don't exist as a water right.
That's true.
Okay.
But they are moving through the system with ownership updates to keep the records current until an action is taken. And so each one of those has a legal right to exist until an action is taken by this office. So, and it's either issued, modified, or denied. So there's something more than nothing.
Yeah, I get that. And
Okay?
that's partly why I'm asking, because I'm thinking about what if we run into a situation where there is a conflict between one of these and another existing filing that's here. What's the standing of these until that happens?
They stand as pending and suspended registrations until it's resolved.
Okay.
And in the situation where there's a conflict, we'll call it a hypothetical conflict right now. This office has got to come up with a solution.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Just want to clarify too, I didn't mention, we mark these deficiencies, but then a column that we've included in our spreadsheet that's not here is a note of what those deficiencies are. So it provides more direction for the office staff to be able to pinpoint where the issue is. So just want to clarify that.
Much appreciated. Level of detail on that also. So thank you, Ben, and thanks for.
And those comments go file by file. They're
Yep.
application specific.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it on that topic?
That's all for me, Mr. Chairman, unless you have additional discussion. I do suggest the board members peruse the pre-review document that you have, and feel free to take some notes and reach out to this office with other thoughts That pre-review will be used to help detail what our policies are for that final review phase.
Thank you.
Oh, it's me.
So do we have a 4.2 to WP&P MOU?
All right. Looks slow, and everybody's looking at it. Are you ready to move on to the water engineer?
4.2, yes.
First, announcement, we did make a job offer to Sydney Palmer, and she will be starting with this office next Monday. So we're excited about that. I'll send an email out.
Sydney Palmer.
Sydney Palmer.
And that's great. And
she will be a water resource specialist. She's in a career ladder position to go from level 1 to a level 2 right off the bat, and we'll be looking to plug her in to the workload here, and we're very excited to have her.
And starts when?
Next Monday. We should. So that will be the 29th of April.
Super.
In other items, Mr. Chairman, board members. Oh, yes.
She's also one of my graduate students.
Cool. Where's she from?
I don't know.
She's from Chalice, Idaho.
Okay.
She's one of my hydrographers.
Okay. Oh,
And I don't want to lose her.
so we're stealing her away. Oh, thank you.
I wasn't going to put that in the announcement, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, it'll come out. That's okay. Thank you. That's good.
She'll work out.
Sydney Palmer. Good. Very good.
It is.
Thanks for getting her trained up.
Great, Mr. Chairman, board members, if you don't mind, I'm going to go through a little bit of the list of things from the meeting minutes from our last meeting and give you some updates. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right. Great. I'm going to start off with we had some discussion about the permissions matrix for the wireless project, and you'll remember Trevor spoke with you, Watson, the DNRC Water Resources Division Deputy Administrator, and the board directed us to finalize that matrix, and we have got that pushed over into the DNRC's lap, and we're having some back and forth a little bit about that as that's getting developed, and then so we've made some steps towards getting that hopefully finalized and incorporated into an MOU. The board directed the OE and legal to resolve the resolution, and you'll have that in front of you as one of the agenda items here in a moment, but just did want to go ahead and do my part here on going through the list. And those were the things that were in the body of the last meeting minutes, and now I'm going to go into the miscellaneous board directions as requested. Item 1 was to invite Seth Makepeace to the next meeting to discuss his memo on development domestic allowances / white paper for combined appropriations. Seth is out of the state on some personal endeavors for this meeting and most likely our next. In the alternative, was able to get Seth into the office last Thursday, and he and Amanda and Roger and Ken and myself and James all got together to see if we could make some forward movement on sections of the WP&P and discuss the Seth's memo. I suspect some of those topics will come up later when we get into the session on working through the WP&P, but did want to let you know that something close to this happened, but we didn't quite get set at a public meeting. Item 2 here, request a summary from Kathy Schubert describing how the DNRC processes applications with multiple 602s present on a parcel or within a development. I think Kathy's on for this meeting. Yeah. Yep. So when we get into the WP&P, she'll be available, but she has also, I think, armed James and myself pretty good where we can help that along also. We did distribute some information about the historic document pertaining to exempt wells, along with DNRC's current guidance document. I am also here to let you know that DNRC expects to come out with updated guidance on exempt wells here around the end of the month. And so I have also taken some opportunity to interact with some of the state folks that have been as helpful as they could be, especially Payla, on helping us wrangle in additional information that may help to inform our project here. Item number 3 was to invite Ryan Lipscomb. I do expect him to be here later in this meeting, so got that handled. Item number 4 was a request an update from Jigs at Big Sky. Jigs and I met here at the office last Thursday and spent some time in the basement and heard what his plan is, and was made aware that they are looking at moving forward with that. I also found out that the building owner will be here in town in about a week, and so I expect that we're all three going to get together and talk about the project, and hope to have some forward movement on AC being added to the new heater that will go in. So a new heat and air unit. We did also identify that we need to get a new sump pump arrangement, and then also the hot water heater is it's in the water. So I feel like we've got some forward movement on that.
Did Jigs have any estimate on the time frame for the heating and air?
At present, he is waiting on Martha and urging her to hurry along, because as it gets warmer, things cost more. Oh. That's what he told me.
I take it he's in communication with her?
Yes, he is, and also asked that I join in his communications to help steer that along, and I intend to probably reach out to her again either tomorrow or the next day. Item 5 was the board directed the OE to initiate an MOU with the Dewar office to inform the OE when they receive an application for the use of flathead system compact water. And I think that's initiated, but kind of at its early stages right now. And we all definitely know that it needs to happen so that we're coordinated. So kind of a light update on item 5, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
That's all the updates for me under the water engineer updates, unless you have something else.
So that covered item 5. Did we touch, do 4.2 MOU? Is there any?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I had moved on to the water engineers update.
Yeah.
5, sorry.
That's okay.
No.
I don't know if we missed something there or.
No, I got all of 4.2, I think, sitting over there, unless you got some additional questions. I certainly didn't mean to
No,
jump ahead.
any questions on the update at this point?
I see Haley, you have something? You were getting ready. She's on the deck next.
Okay. So you want to go to 4.2? Is that what you're doing? Did we miss?
No, we are all the way through 5.2, and now I think, Mr. Chairman, we can move on to item 6.
Okay.
Again, not trying to rush any discussion the board might have on other items previously listed here.
Okay. That's fine.
Excellent, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to hand things over, or you can maybe hand things over to Haley to talk about the resolution.
Hi, Haley. We're on number 6.1.
Afternoon, board members. Can you all hear me all right?
Let me try to turn the volume up. Oops. It's on.
That side.
Just a second, Haley, just a second.
See why they call it an owl now? It's looking right at me.
Yes.
Looks like a little owl.
Can you say something else, Haley?
Hello?
Okay, one more time. Haley, can you say something else?
Is this better?
Yep, we got it. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thanks, Haley.
No, thank you. Sorry, I had audio issues joining, so I'm glad that we got that taken care of. Well, to start, it looks like we are revisiting the resolution that was reintroduced to the board at the last meeting. This is resolution 6, which pertains to legal communications, workflow, and fiscal management. This, as Ethan mentioned at the last meeting, this was a draft that was circulated a while back. I wanted to take a look at it again, just to make sure that the language was fine. And I did that. And then there was also conversation from board members with adding the vice chair as part of some of the more substantial communications with legal counsel. And so that was also added in.
So Haley, you said you reviewed it. Was there something on your review that we need to be aware of?
No, the only substantial change that I made was to incorporate the vice chair within the legal communications of substance. So it will now be the board chair, the vice chair, and the engineer for any communications with the required direction or substance from the board.
Okay. I think after our review last time, I think we can have extensive discussion. So if you have questions, you want to raise them now. Otherwise, Haley has now had a chance to review it. Seems satisfied. So will this work for the board? And only other comment I'd make at this point is that as a resolution, we can always revisit this. Something's not working and you want to make adjustments. Roger, anything? This doesn't prohibit the chair and or vice chair from making direct contact with legal.
No, no, Mr. Chairman, in fact, it has provisions specifically that allow that, yep.
I guess, and even beyond the chair and vice chair, I guess I want to make sure that any other board member can directly contact legal staff if they have questions. I mean, I think we should have full access. All board members should have full access to legal counsel. So I would like to see a sentence added to that effect.
Can most certainly do that.
I guess I'll just, since I'm talking. So paragraph 2 under communications, the first sentence, the end of it says excluding administrative ministerial activities of implementation for assignments and actions. What does that mean? In layman's term?
Mr. Chairman, board members, if you will let me chime in, that is after this body directs Haley and myself to go work on a legal issue and handle payment and billing and things like that. We don't. This resolution offers to exclude the chair and the vice chair from those ministerial activities or the stepwise process leading towards products that you directed us to create. Not intended here to exclude substantive items in any way.
Can you give me an example of that?
If you want to, I don't really have a problem including you on the billing information. But,
well, additional example might be just preparing this. Once we directed them to prepare this,
okay.
The back and forth communication between Ethan and legal. Do you want to be included on every?
No.
Once we give the direction, I think it's just a matter of them getting it done.
Yeah. Okay.
So that part of it, they wouldn't, but we can, if you know, if you choose.
Oh, I was just trying to understand it. Maybe.
Yeah. It looks like legalese.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Why is the word ministerial in there? That's a whole legal duty. Just, it seems out of place.
Would you like a different? I mean, I think ministerial is
Ministerial in legal terms, then you have a duty to do something. You can't shut it. You can't get out of that duty.
Ethan,
yeah.
just to help you out, I think it should just be changed to administerial instead.
Administrative?
That too.
Yeah, just remove that word.
Just strike it.
Yeah, I would.
I guess continuing on down under billing to the first paragraph, second sentence, add vice chair to that where it says board chair and vice chair. And I guess I am going to pound on the table again about when I go back and look at our last month, we received a report for expenses. Our legal fees are 25% of our operating costs, you know. They're pretty substantial. So I think I guess, one, just reemphasize the need to get a budget in place so that we can track this and make sure we're staying in budget. And two, just for consistency, I want to be part of the review on those.
You want to be part of the review on what?
Well, I did.
On the billing?
Yeah. Take expenses.
On the review of legal expenses.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. I can include vice chair as your suggestion, yes.
On your first change, you said add vice chair, what was that?
So right after where it's,
Under billing, second sentence,
yeah,
copy to the board chair, just add vice chair and vice chair.
That's fine.
Yeah, and Roger, that's my fault for not catching that because later on in that paragraph, it does include the vice chair. So that's my apologies. Wasn't meant to exclude. And James, just for people, if they are viewing on the screen, this is an older version of the document.
Yes.
yeah, it is.
So Roger, your comment I think is worth noting, but I don't know that I have a solution to it. Do you have a suggestion or a solution to your comment?
You mean for,
The amount of legal expense.
oh. I just made the comment because I think we got to get our budget so we can start tracking this.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry. I am thinking about your statement about having any of the board members contact the legal, and so under communication, where it says that the board may designate alternative primary and secondary contacts through majority vote in all instances, was really, I think that was, back when we talked about this in the first place, that was what, had been considered. Some of the need to more formally make those assignments is that if board members just contact our legal services without going through any of the channels, those are all billable hours, which is fine if you want to go that route, but I just that's not something I can track if it happens outside of these other channels. And under our current situation, I don't see that would be necessarily kind of a problem, but it could change. I don't know.
Well, I don't, yeah, I think that's not gonna be a big impact to costs if some board member makes a 30-minute call to Haley or John. So I don't see that, I guess what I would recommend then, if that under that same paragraph or sentence, we just say something to the effect, however, any board member at their discretion may contact legal staff for advisement. Or
if another board member does contact legal, do you want them to notify us?
no, I don't. Yeah, I just think everybody should have access.
All right.
So.
But I do actually check their billing. So I need to know if you want me to monitor expenses. I do need to know. I don't need to know the topic, but I need to know the occurrence.
Can I provide some clarification, at least from what happens on our end?
Yes.
So, Ethan and Mr. Chair, you would be familiar, but our staff here provides a very comprehensive Excel spreadsheet of anything that we work on, and so it's my entries that I put in, and I'm pretty specific on what I'm working on usually. or who I'm talking with. So anything would be marked and tracked, based on that.
So could I offer a slightly different viewpoint and context?
And
I know that when I was in Haley's position, I really ran afoul of different people calling for different answers on the same question. And it was hard to ensure consistency from a legal advice point of view. So for me, I prefer to work between you three and Haley. Just so, you know, we ensure that, you know, we're getting consistent advice. But I know I'm not opposed to all having access. It's just consistency.
thoughts?
Yeah, but how would you structure that, or how do you have a recommendation or suggestion on?
Kind of the way it was.
Okay,
You know,
Just,
Well, and
just as a reminder, you guys did draft that language, so I know it was a long time ago, but I actually even remember you saying what you just said when you were, I think you were vice chair at the time.
And I am absolutely not opposed to another board member wanting to talk to legal, but maybe the way to do it would be to do it through us. Say, look, let's get a hold of us, and then we'll just arrange, or just say directly to do it, or whatever. That way we know, and not that we have to be involved or interfere. But if you have a question that pertains to a policy, a legal issue, and you want to hear a direct answer, you should be able to do that. But we keep it the way it is and take that approach, would that work?
that's fine.
Because I don't oppose it, you know, the board members having access. But thank you for your input.
And Mr. Chairman, I understand where Ethan's coming for as compensation too. You know, that he knows that you spent some time on that. Maybe you want to get paid for it.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, that's a piece. I think the bigger piece is probably just understanding our legal expenses. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So with that, we've got a couple minor changes. You want to review what those minor changes are, Ethan, that we'll take to this, and then we'll hopefully get this. I don't know if you want to approve this with those changes or wait till it comes back. Do we need it now? I mean, we can get this redrafted and
Mr.
final
Chairman,
approval
board
next
members,
meeting.
as of right now, I have two very specific changes. One is to strike the word ministerial in the second paragraph of the communication, and the other is to add the word vice chair in the billing, in the second sentence under billing.
You want to approve the changes or wait till it comes back finalized?
I said approve the changes.
Approve the changes? Approve the changes? Approve the changes? Okay. There are no other comments. We'll take, before we take action, I guess we'll see if there are any public comments. Anybody online or anybody in the audience? No, no public comment here from our public. Anybody online?
If anyone online would like to make a public comment, you can raise your hand. I'll like speak. I'm seeing no public comment online.
Okay, given that, no public comment. If you're ready to approve, we'll take a motion to approve with the specific changes that were discussed here today.
I'll move to approve with the changes that we've made so far today.
Motion by George.
No second.
Second by Ken. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, all approved. Thank you very much. So when you have that finalized and you need us to sign, we can sign it by the next.
Thank you, board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Haley.
See that at your next meeting.
And domestic allowance white paper. we have something more on that?
I believe this was put on the agenda in case there were, any board members who wanted to discuss further based on other conversations they had, or after they've had a chance to read the materials that were distributed last week. Otherwise, I don't have anything further because the board did not direct me to, go any further with this.
Okay, Ethan and Roger, I know you guys had an opportunity to meet. I don't remember who else was there. You had a list of people who met with Seth. That seems pertinent to that topic. Do you guys want to share anything about that today, or are we gonna hold off on that until we bring it up again?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, I think that the white paper in its current form accomplished specific task, but this would be a good time to get corrected if I'm wrong. So, and I did put this on here because I wanted the board to have an opportunity to reflect, to see if they felt like that white paper accomplished what needed to be accomplished. And so, forgive me for, putting it right, right out there again. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of it all, but we have had a lot of discussion about it. It is out there. I do think it's gotten a lot of reading time. This, to me, doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't need to have something added later, but this would be a good time to make sure that, that hits the mark that was intended by this one.
I don't know if you want to talk about what your meeting was with Seth.
Well, I don't see the domestic development application on our agenda. So really our meeting with Seth dealt with that topic and Seth's memorandum. It was a good meeting. It was a great meeting. It was very beneficial and helpful. So I guess, I can give you my 2 bits, and Amanda was there. Amanda would like to also feel free to, if you have any comments or whatever, but really to me, Seth wrote a very well summarized position paper for the domestic development, domestic allowance, and the intent of it. I guess in one sense, since it's not on the agenda, I'm kind of reluctant to go into too much discussion on it.
If offer the opportunity if you wanted to. I think where ultimately we need to get is to making a decision on direction. What direction we're going to go with that in the last discussion. So I think we probably want to make sure it's on the next agenda. Mr.
Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, definitely under the continued WP&P, we have 7.1.2, which is to re-engage the allowance section, which I thought that was maybe I should have highlighted that more, but that is what I had intended, is to talk about the specific policies that would have the white paper, would have that last meeting. We have some new language for you to consider, that kind of thing. We have that in the WP&P. That said, though, because we did have this legal topics section in the white paper is there, I kind of threw that in as something just in case you guys didn't get what you needed. This would be a good time to tell me.
No worries. I'll take a cue from Roger here, and should we just move on to the next section then?
Yeah, you bet.
And then we can try to get that larger topic then on the next agenda. Is that make sense?
What is the larger topic?
Well, you're talking about your policy language here, but the question, I mean, at least what I thought we were talking about, or when you talk about was the lengthy discussion we had the last meeting regarding the direction the board wants to go with, with multiple wells.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I again that is what I was trying to impart in 7.1.2.
Okay.
So, that's why.
If we want to move on to item 7, that's my question.
Mr. Mason,
Yes, okay.
one thing we did do is we suggested to the office engineer that maybe they should start thinking about proposed language. So.
Well, we'll ultimately have to make a decision what direction we go to. I mean, I think you had shared some internal email discussion between yourself and I think Roger and Georgia since then.
Not Georgia, no.
And I think, you're thinking about it. So I think it's important that, okay, if that's the place we advance this discussion, that's fine. So we want to move on to item 7.
Yeah, so I guess I misunderstood. I didn't re-engage allowance section. I guess I didn't.
Wasn't clear what that was?
Clear, yeah. So I guess when we get there, we'll see what you got and see where we want to go.
Yeah. So 3 o'clock, everyone take 5?
Yeah.
Take 5-minute break. All right. All right, Ethan.
Mr. Chairman, board members. My thoughts together here for a second. Mr. Freites, I'm going to ask you to pop open the WP&P for us, if you would, sir. All right, Mr. Chairman and board members, as we work through things here, I'm hoping to start off with just another check-in about an item that we discussed previously, which is the waste and seepage arrangement. I think we generally had landed on something that the board members appreciated, but out of caution to not, color code that section without total buy-in, I wanted to double check and make sure we're where we need to be, and if I've missed anything on additional direction that was needed for seepage or waste and seepage. And generally what we had is 2, just as a recap, we had 2 new definitions, one for seepage water and one for ditch tailwater. Both of these were largely taken from the administrative rule set. They're in here primarily to help define that this office doesn't plan on issuing water rights that are primarily supplied by these sources because an applicant wouldn't have any real control of the seepage or the tailwater and its continuation.
So let's go to the seepage and make sure we're. Oh, board members. Comments, thoughts, suggestions? You good with it?
I'm good with it, Mr. Chairman.
You don't have a right to its continuance, you have a right to a volume or a flow.
Go on.
Well, it says you can appropriate, that means that you have some sort of legal right if you're appropriating water, right? So what are you appropriating that you might have a legal right to?
So if you have a water right that has a source from a creek, and you pull water from the creek and you irrigate land, that land happens to be next to a ditch where water seeps out of the ditch and commingles with your surface water, right?
I get that.
Okay.
My question is, why are we using the word appropriate?
Okay.
And I'm not disagreeing, I'm just sure, I just want to know.
We could just.
Did you change that or James?
I understand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't have a computer in front of me. James is driving.
Magic power.
Driving. Appropriate, disappear.
So I guess my question, do we want to say appropriate?
I'm gonna have to phone a friend to find out if appropriate is a loaded term. We can come back after doing a little research to double check.
Well, if it is if there is a question, it's a legal question then, right? So Haley can.
I would think it's a legal question, yeah.
Yeah.
It's more than just an editorial comment.
Yeah, so appropriate is a defined term within the ordinance, and that was actually gonna be my comment on these definitions. Mainly because if we were gonna use water users, with appropriate as it was before, then the suggestion would be to change it to appropriators and appropriation as defined by the ordinance, but appropriate does have defined meaning in the ordinance, and it's to divert, impound, maintain an in-stream, in lake, in wetland, or withdraw a quantity of water for beneficial use within the exterior boundaries of the reservation.
And
I think it's fine as it is what I was trying to get at, just for consistency purposes. If we're gonna be using a defined term, then we need to use the other defined term. But if not, then this is fine.
as appropriate or just used?
Are you saying to leave it appropriate, but capital A?
If you're going back to appropriate, then it needs to be changed to in which other appropriators can appropriate.
But doesn't appropriate, doesn't that mean then you have a water right? You have a legal use to that water?
It means that you're using water for a beneficial use.
But okay, so a beneficial use though is a water right. You have to demonstrate that you're putting that water to beneficial use if you're gonna get a water right. So by definition then, an appropriation is a water right.
Yes, and this is not saying that, what we're trying to say is, like, we know seepage happens and seepage occurs for water rights that are existing legitimate water rights, and we can't stop that, but we just don't want to issue a new water right that is primarily sourced by seepage or ditch tailwater. I thought appropriate was here, it was okay here, because really people shouldn't be using water without a water right in the first place.
Right, but Ethan, if you aren't issuing an appropriation right, which is a water right under the ordinance, then the term appropriate applies to an appropriation right. So it wouldn't be proper if you aren't administering or issuing any appropriation rights here.
No, they would be using the seepage as part of an existing appropriation right.
No, but if you say which other users can appropriate, it just causes the confusion that if they can appropriate,
Okay.
but then they don't have a right to it, which is it? Do they have an appropriation or do they not have a right?
Why don't we just take that whole like, and which other water users can use, we could just eliminate all that. And just say, underground and eventually returns to a surface or groundwater source. And then, comma, water users have no legal right to its continuance. Something like that. Does that help clean it up?
That cleans it up a bit.
You know, I mostly only need this definition to achieve,
If we,
these other really narrow.
if we just, as you've done, replace appropriate with use, I mean, did I hear Haley, you say that would be fine?
Yeah, that works. I mean, it doesn't imply that there's an actual appropriation right.
So,
Okay.
Roger?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Okay.
I just appropriate has a
No, good
defined.
question.
Yeah.
Yep, that was good. We're on to number 5.
Yes.
Okay.
So the line stricken sections are sections that were part of the administrative rule. That I'm suggesting we can eliminate. And because we have an existing definition of waste, I am trying to walk away from the word wastewater so as not to confuse that. And in fact, some amount of tailwater is normal inefficiency that is unavoidable in certain types of irrigation methods. Obviously, there are extreme ends of the tailwater situation that we all know about, but a little tailwater is going to happen on a thorough ditch system.
So why do we want to define it?
You took the words out of my mouth.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Why do we want to define this?
I mean, from a practical viewpoint.
Okay, so tailwater is it's a little different than the seepage. Okay, but it is also prevalent enough on some of the irrigated lands here that it would perhaps seem like a source of water that was possibly reliable, that somebody might want to try to make an application for. So they could say, hey, there's this ditch tailwater here. I want to apply to use this tailwater. And what we're saying is, well, you don't really have any right to a continuation of that water. We think issuing a water right that's predicated on somebody else's inefficiency is probably a bad idea.
But you still haven't answered the question, why do we need to define it? I understand the practical aspect of it. Why do we need a definition?
When we get down to the section where we talk about not using seepage and tailwater as a physical source for a new appropriation, that's why it's got a definition here. Maybe it might help.
Can we jump to that section now then,
Yeah.
too? Just quickly take a look at that.
Here. Andy.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a clarifying question?
Absolutely.
Ethan, is the tailwater not intended to just be, I mean, could it not just be a statement that it's neither put to a beneficial use nor waste?
Can you say that for me one more time, Haley?
Sure. That tailwater is water that's neither put to a beneficial use nor waste.
If you think that gets it, I mean, that first sentence, based on what the feedback I just got from this group, I think we might consider just deleting it in terms of the co-mingling designation. What I'm really trying to get at is the second sentence, which is seepage water and or tailwater may not be used as the basis or source of physically available water for a new appropriation right or mitigation of a new appropriation right or historic supply of a water right being changed. That part is that's like something that I am actually really suggesting. Haven't seen a lot of problems with waste and seepage rights in my other career endeavors. Furthermore, I think if you have this added ask of the applicant to, give an assessment as to whether or not their, seepage water is a substantial component, will help to let folks know that they need to consider that factor when they're applying for whatever various water right actions might be needed by this office.
So if they consider it and it's a substantial point, part of the application, you're not going to give it to them.
Not for that portion of it, yeah. That's precisely it. So
you could eliminate the first sentence. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, well, it seems like maybe you guys thought that shouldn't exist in the definition, so maybe it shouldn't exist.
Well, it's kind of a wordy preamble to what you're trying to say. Like you said, what you're trying to say is starting to see. Then the other, or maybe it's a minor point, is you have a whole section saying that. Is it necessary to say that in the seepage section? Because you say it in the seepage section, and you don't say it in the tailwater section. Then you have a whole section saying it here. Just curious if it's necessary in the seepage section.
I'm happy to eliminate it in the seepage section.
If you just define them, and then in this section you say they can't be used as a source for a water right, basically, is what you're saying. Yeah.
That's what's going.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you got a whole section saying you You can't use these for, as a source for water, right? Essentially what you're doing.
You're suggesting. Yep, I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Somebody correct us here for misstepping.
Does that help you all?
Yes.
Haley, does that seem fair?
Yeah, no, I think that concept makes sense. I just wanted to bring up that duality between those because it is a litigated concept. What is beneficial use and what is waste, and then what's in between. And tailings have been considered that type of water. So just wanted to point that out.
And Haley, to that effect, if we were to add that sentence to the end of this seepage water and tailwater section, do you think that will be an improvement?
I think so. I mean, you already have that it's not going to be considered, for beneficial use in a water right. I think just adding, nor is it considered waste is probably appropriate too as a sideboard.
In this late afternoon, I'm a little dense. So we should add another sentence, right?
It can stand alone as its own sentence at the end. Yeah.
Okay. So seepage, water, and tailwater are neither a beneficial use nor a waste. I believe that's what you were suggesting, Haley.
Yeah.
And beneficial use is a defined term, right?
Both beneficial use and waste are defined terms.
Yep.
I could change nether to neither.
Whoops. That's not right either.
Well, not to put too fine a point on it, but then what is waste? Then how are we defining waste?
Waste is a defined term.
Waste means the unreasonable loss of water resulting from the design, construction, operation, or maintenance of a water diversion, storage, or distribution facility, well, developed spring, or the application of water to anything but a beneficial use. So I don't think that we are stepping on the definition of waste here or encouraging it, but
That sounds like the definition of waste has an intent component to it.
yeah, and or neglect. I mean, just haven't been around here. That an unreasonable loss.
Yeah, I can see, future hearings where there are arguments over that.
So this would be a reasonable loss as juxtaposed to an unreasonable loss, right? I mean, that's really what we're getting.
Yeah,
at.
well, that's what I mean, that defining that where that hair is split in any given situation, that's gonna be where the argument lies.
Right.
So I tell my students, anytime you see the word reasonable, it's code for lawyers to be involved.
I think we solved this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Yeah, until our first hearing.
Yeah. Now you guys have 30 minutes here, I think it is, to solve the appropriation rights.
Yeah, we got renegade. Renegade.
Okay.
Right to the
the meat.
There's a couple of little things, I think, up above that were.
Let's start here.
Yes, so we had agreed to a municipal water supply connection, and somebody had let me know that we should have a gap so that if a municipality or tribal equivalent fails to respond to an applicant's request to join, you know, this is as a reminder, if you're looking for a domestic allowance within 500 feet of the exterior boundary of the municipal water supply or tribal equivalent, that you got to get a letter saying that they won't let you in. And in fairness to an applicant, if you make the ask and nobody is willing to respond to you, you know, we shouldn't let that, you know, failed response hinder your ability to move forward with your project. So I've tried to write in here a relief valve, so if they show us that they wrote that letter and they didn't get a response, we could just document that and move things along.
You don't see any loophole there, do you?
No, I just would change the word join to connect.
Good improvement.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so what if they come in with a copy of a letter and then say nobody responded? How do we verify that?
I can't if I want to, but they are at the end of the day signing a declaration, you know, that they're providing us factual information, and there's a certain amount of trust that has to happen.
Okay.
In the water right world.
Just a small, so going down that path and then, you know, a week, a month or 6 months later, you find out that they could have connected. Do we reverse that? Do they change that? Do we make them go back and do it? How do we?
If we wanted to, we can write into the approval language, you know, just like anything else, any false information that was provided as part of the application could result in a revocation of an authorization.
And in that case, if it was false because they could have connected, they just have to go connect.
I have to like address what to do about the remedy after, you know, after things are figured out. But yeah,
I just wondered.
Okay.
I guess to me, it seems like most municipalities, they're going to respond to a letter request. So I hear what you're saying, Clay, and I'm just thinking maybe it was fails to allow connection or something, because there has to be some documentation in the file to fall back on, I think.
That's all. Yeah. So yeah.
And then we're trying to get the applicant to provide that documentation.
Yeah, but it doesn't say that. It says that if the municipality or tribal equivalent doesn't respond, then they got the green light to go.
Would it help to add a time, like within 60 days? Or?
Well, I would just say if
which gets to my point is, how do we verify it? So either we verify it or we just take their word. So it's one or the other. Either we verify or we just take their word. And I think what I'm hearing is we don't want to be in a position to have to verify those things.
Yeah. I just say if they have to, that the municipality has to provide some sort of letter to either say yes or no, you know. Or if it just says fails to allow connection.
So, if maybe it's as simple as asking that they demonstrate that they made at least 2 attempts. I don't know, that might be a way, that way you've got 2 letters, no response, then they got this. What about that? That way it's not up to us, up to them, but they're demonstrating 2.
Oh, wait, no, if they're just like start off.
I mean, I'm throwing it out there. What do you, I mean, does that make
Say,
any sense?
after 2 attempts. Oh.
Well, here, let me throw out the scenario that's going to occur. So the developer is going to go to Ronan, for just an example, and say, hey, my development's at 450 feet away from here. Can I connect to your system? And Ronan's going to say, well, you can connect if you bury the pipeline and provide the service. And the developer's going to say, well, that's too much cost, so I'm not going to do it. And I don't get a letter back. Well, the city's going to let them connect, but it's going to be at their expense. It's not going to be, you know.
So on that scenario, what would you prefer? How should we deal with it?
Oh, well, if the city or whoever's not going to let them connect, they're going to say, we're at maximum capacity. We cannot provide service. They're going to issue a letter like that.
But I mean, in your scenario, if the key there is that the individual or contractor doesn't want to foot the bill, do we force them to?
Well, this is state law. This isn't just compact verbiage.
What is state law?
That if you're within 500 feet of a public municipal water system, you're required to connect unless there's some caveats to it, unless it's.
Yeah, so if we verify that the reason they're not wanting to connect is because they don't want to foot the bill, then we can say, well, you can connect. So that's where you get your source. We can't issue water right.
Yeah,
We're just not going to.
yeah, I mean, if you're not gonna play the rules, you're not gonna get your domestic house.
Is that what I mean, that's fine. I just wondered, is that where you're going? With it?
Yeah, I think we just have to abide by the state rules. I think there is a exemption to the effect that if it's 3 times the cost to put in your own system or something to connect, then they will allow you to build your own system.
That's that scenario. How about just here? Do we, there's 2 attempts? I mean, I just threw it out as an option for languages. We say 2 attempts. And then at that point, we take their word for it.
Alternatively, we can volunteer to help them wrangle this issue, which.
To confirm.
We can do that. Yeah.
I mean,
We can just delete that new sentence.
Well, that's the question. Do we want our staff to be in that position? And then as is pointed out, if they're provided false information or misleading information and we find out later, then we can respond to it.
Yeah, I guess that'll work.
But I get your point that if it's state law, I mean, they have to try it, they have to do it. And the municipality has to allow it unless they're at capacity, right?
Right.
You're saying, yeah.
So I'm wondering why we even have that sentence. Is Roger's point, they're gonna respond.
Yeah, I mean, Ethan's throwing out a suggestion. I mean, that's
Yeah.
his suggestion, so either we accept it or we don't.
I guess, why do you think they're not gonna respond?
Somebody told me that they asked about that to St. Ignatius and they didn't respond. That's why.
Well, I think the burden is on the applicant.
Yeah.
And if we say 2 attempts, is that fair? I mean, other than taking their word for it for one, you know, 1 attempt, because they'd walk in, here's a letter, nobody responded.
I still think the burden's on the applicant. If they fail to respond, the applicant can ask them to respond. Why do we get involved in that?
Get rid of it.
No, not yet, not yet. Like thinking, Roger's thinking. I think the burden's on the applicant to go to the water company and say, I can't get a domestic imbalance unless you respond.
With this, fine. I mean, yeah, you want to do that, we can, which, you know, I think Ethan's, I get your point, but if we just hold the line, you know, this is a policy, and if it happens, you know, to where that becomes difficult, then we can always readjust.
Okay, how about using your standard escape? If the water engineer approves something, yada, yada, yada. Put it on me. No, seriously, I mean,
That's
we've
fine.
done this elsewhere in the, where this is the rule, but if the water engineer agrees, there's some kind of hardship, keep away that part of the rule.
How hard is it for you to check with the municipal water supply? Or is that something you do on something like this? That's up to the water user to do that, the way it reads.
I do try to get the applicants to do as much of the application work as possible, but I can live with what Ken just suggested.
Mhm.
Like say the water engineer can something to the effect in consider exceptions on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
Something like that. Just consider exceptions on a case-by-case basis. That way you can hold their feet to the fire or not. Just no, maybe so.
It's actually just fine to take care of like what I think of that might be a problem. So I needed some sort of a way out if there was an impasse between the municipality or the.
And it could be any variety of exceptions that come up, maybe not just one, yeah.
So this does it. And I can do my own documentation in the file to that effect.
Roger?
Yeah, if Ethan's okay with that, I'm okay with that.
All right, this next one's gonna be really easy. I added the word prior. Because I would like to have that letter prior to the applicant submitting the application. That
I would just editorial of this, and as long as the applicant remains in good standing with the fifth comma and the letter of approval must be dated within. The applicant remained in good standing with it. And the letter of approval is dated within 6 months prior. Motion approved.
Okay.
Thank you.
So remove the period and say, and. No, yes, yeah, thank you. Is. Sorry.
Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, I see nods, I see consensus, and I see that although it's 15 minutes ahead on our schedule, our guests are here. And so if you guys are inclined, we can go another 15 minutes on this, or we can jump right into our presentation.
Okay, we guess.
All right.
Well, if there's other people that were looked at our agenda want to come, then they know.
Yeah, that's the thing is,
Yeah.
that's, it
mean,
would be
it's,
15 minutes ahead of schedule if you wanna.
It's an open meeting and we advertised it that way.
Okay, that's fine. You guys good for another 15? They're watching their phones anyways.
But before we
All right.
do that, we should probably get to that.
Talk about that.
Yeah, at some point before we have this.
Not gonna get
Just so, because if there's a lot of questions and stuff, it might go long, you know.
Okay, so
Just thought.
that's fine. So you wanted to propose it?
Oh,
See what
well,
the board wants to do?
So we could continue on with the WP&P, but one thing I just thought we should look at next meeting date, Ethan. What do you? Are you looking at May 1st then? Because if this presentation goes long and gets into lengthy questions, then we have that covered.
Sure. May 1st is an option. That is on a Wednesday. That would leave us with, we either get Ken or Georgia. Right? So that's
That's pretty quick turnaround. You guys want to go the first? You want to go to that next Wednesday, which would be the 8th?
I'm good with either date myself.
Was there a reason for the first? I mean,
just because I don't think we're going to get very far on the. I don't think we're going to get through these allowances, and I want to get this WP&P out.
okay.
I'm encouraging.
Proposal is the first. You guys
Unless you
good with
guys
that?
want to just keep meeting a little longer today, we can go through more.
So the first?
Yes.
I can do the first.
It might be the only thing that's on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So you'll send out an early warning for the meeting so everybody else knows. And then in your regular notice, yeah. Thank you. Okay, given that, you want to continue on with the water policy?
Yep.
For a few minutes. Okay, next item. So we're on this number 12.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So board members seem to be good to go on parts A and B. What you have here, if you could go to the review section and go from simple markup to full markup. What we have here is a proposed rewrite of domestic allowances for development. And this is me trying to capture what I heard discussed outside of the board meeting, but this is the time to have the whole board consider whether or not, you know, the domestic allowance for development should have this type of connection limit, which is more than one home and or business, but not more than 5. And the reason that was behind the 5 number is that 5 corresponds with a minor, 5 and less corresponds with a minor subdivision, whereas 6 and more corresponds with a major subdivision. By focusing on the actual number of homes and or businesses, it helps to avoid a situation where if a parcel has previously been divided and it seeks to have a smaller additional subdivision, then it will automatically get pinged, as far as I understand things, as a major subdivision. But here in this case, it would allow what seemed to be kind of the threshold number discussed. And it's very much here, Roger, for you to tell us if that's accurate with what we came out of the meeting or not.
What else is below here? So,
This is all what it used to be.
okay,
I guess my take is I'm really not prepared about that.
Okay.
Well, I was kind of thinking the same thing. I think what I would like to see you guys do is we had a pretty good meeting with Seth, and I would like to see you guys come back with a little summary of that meeting for the May. I think we could bring this up on May 1 of that and go over all those routines that we went through, the rationale behind it. And maybe Amanda wants to present the tribe's perspective on it too. But and to discuss Seth's memo, because there was a lot of good information presented here earlier in the week when we had that meeting. And I think it would provide the rest of the board members with a very good basis for how we move this thing forward.
so I think you sent out his memo in a previous electronic communication. I'd like to get it printed out myself. If we could do that today before I leave, that'd be fine.
Sure.
And
Anybody else wants it, just, you know.
And I guess this has probably been reworked since the version we had been given last time, which I updated as 405. So if you could send out this new version,
Sure.
so that we could review this in advance also, that would be beneficial. And then we can pick it up, I think, once
Okay.
everybody's on the same page.
Fine. And with your guidance, yeah, that's fine. Okay,
Fine, yeah.
let's do that. Okay, move on.
Okay, the next section in here is the easy one for you. It's the complaint section. The only real thing for the board to consider is just how we put it into the WP&P. This is something that you had already gone over as a group. It actually even went out for public comment. We got no public comment.
So you got no public comments?
We got no public comment. And we took that pretty much verbatim, put it into the WP&P here. I just have it listed because I don't want to overstate step that topic, I wanted to explain exactly where we were at with it, and either add a little green, board, consensus at the bottom of the section, or we can work through it if we need to.
So what are we looking at?
This is the complaint section. And
right, and we've been through this, and so your question about how to put it in, what I'm not.
well, so we did it, we sent it out to public notice as a standalone item. And because, we haven't sent the WP&P out yet, we thought it might as well go ahead and go into the WP&P, which is where its ultimate landing spot needed to be anyway. So this is really just letting you know that the language that you had previously approved to go out for notice, and that it's just here.
Okay.
Haley, do you have something to add?
Not in particular. I mean, yeah, the language was not changed from the time that the board put this out for public comment. There were no comments that were received from the public, and so this is the language that was looked over and edited by the board. And so the only action that's needed would be board action if they wanted to put this, I guess, make this section live. That's where this came from, was because it was something that was needed or expressed to the office of the engineer that was needed from the members of the community.
So you guys want to hit the button?
Mhm.
Sure. Okay, if we've already been out to public comment, so we could take action just to make sure it's inserted into the policies and procedures and active. Is that what we're doing?
Mr. Chairman, board members, for my purposes, I really just need consensus to leave it in here the way it is, and then what will happen with this WP&P, just as a reminder, what our hopeful plan is that this package will then go out to public comment for a 30-day period, at which point it will come back to you. You will put your final, full-on board vote for this first iteration of your WP&Ps, and then we'll keep building on it afterwards. Okay. But that would be the time that you would actually have typically a vote with public comment on it.
That's fine, but since this section has gone to public comment, it's available for your use now. You'll apply it now.
Mr. Chairman, that's a good question, and
that's what I thought I heard Haley saying. But that's, yeah. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. But I did the thing about that is that I want to get 7.1.6, the hearings section, approved before we go live with complaints, because the first thing that has to happen when we get a complaint is we have to hold the hearing. So so you're not wrong. We can use this right now, but we need this other thing also.
So, and that'll happen next meeting.
That sounds like that's going to happen next meeting, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So you don't need anything from us right now. You just want us to be aware.
Well, I need that little green thing. Now I don't have to put 7 in the complaint section on your next agenda. So good to go there.
I see heads nodding. Yes. Okay, you have consensus. Okay. Do you need time to set up with these guys?
Do you guys have a presentation or anything you want to
do? I'll just jump on your Zoom and present from there if that works.
Whatever you guys can work out. fine with me.
I don't know if the panelists can share a screen, but get a check.
I think if you just give me permission when I ask about.
You guys ready to move on then? Yeah, okay. All right, thanks, guys. So, when you get ready to
recording in progress. Recording in progress.
Turn on the screen there and bring it up.
I think to do that, I have that.
what did you need to do?
I need to make for a minute. Is that right? I think you need to mute your computer there.
So I'm muted.
You're muted?
Yeah, so I'm from the west doing that. I'll go off, come back in.
Nope, that's working. Now you're muted.
Oh, you know, I muted it and it was still doing that. So I left. So it quit echoing at us.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I'll come back and we'll see if it does it again. It gets the owl picking me up.
Okay, so you should have access to share now.
All right, Brian and Rob are here, and I don't know if everyone knows you, so you'll want to make sure you introduce yourselves and do all that, and then the floor is yours. So welcome, guys.
Thanks, Mike. I know some of you, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Lipscomb. I'm the CEO for Energy Keepers, the Tribe Section 17 corporation that operates the Salish-Kasanka Kalispell hydroelectric facility. Tribal member, born and raised here on the reservation. Spent my time in St. Ignatius growing up and on Flathead Lake with my grandparents in the summertime. Went off, got my degree in engineering. Spent about 10 years working for the Forest Service before getting an opportunity to come back and work for the tribe in 1992 as the Fish and Wildlife Manager. At that time, we were co-licensees on this facility, but didn't have our mitigation measures in place. And I was handed that file when I walked through the door. So spent a decade or more working on those mitigation measures, resulting in about 25 articles of this particular license being put into the license itself. I went off and implemented some of those through mitigation acquisition under a director of tribal lands appointment at the tribal council. Had to be serving for 3 years. Then I want to get back to hydro, so I took a trip to Portland, Oregon for 5 years and served as the executive director of the Columbia Basin Fish and Wildlife Authority, coordinating mitigation for the federal Columbia River hydropower system stretching from Hungry Horse to Bonneville Dam amongst 13 tribes, 4 state agencies, and 2 federal agencies. quite an experience. Really is provided me a tremendous background in the breadth and extension of our hydropower system here in Columbia. Came back in 2010. Tribes hired me as the director of the newly created Department of Energy of the Salish Kootenai Tribes, and literally walked through the door the day after Labor Day weekend in 2010, and the chairman handed me the curve file again. He said, "Here's the estimated conveyance price, Brian, and we need to get this purchased. So that's your priority as the director. Figure out what we're going to do with it when we buy it." Went through a strategic planning process for a couple of years at that time. And the result was Energy Keepers as an independent power producer, Section 17 corporation. Tribe stood that corporation up in 2012, appointed me as the CEO and 3 board members, and out the door we went. And in 36 months, we got ready to take over the facility, which meant get people hired, get them trained, get our systems in place, get our procedures in place, get our processes in place. So got all that done.
You got someone with you?
And Rob is with me. He's our newly hired communications director for the company. So I think a lot of you know Rob. We had some time here with you all before I convinced him that he was be much happier with us. And I think he is at the moment.
At the moment,
At least. So we sure appreciate his help though. So here to talk with you today about Latted Lake. They reached out through Rob to say, hey, we've got a lot of questions coming to us as Water Management Board. And I can just imagine everything from the tribes exercise their water right and shut me off in the upper river. Listen from that perspective. Or some people would say, we sold water downstream. We violated our license on all of the above. And I'm here to tell you none of that happened. So I'll walk you through in order to set basis for that, tell you what the license actually says, what the requirements of the license are for managing Latted Lake through this facility, this power generation facility, and then give you some background about what actually took place in 2023, the severe, unprecedented conditions that we faced in 2023, and likely worse conditions for 2024. Which I'm sure you guys appreciate given the tenor of what you all do. So that'll be the breadth of what I try to get through here in the time we have. A little bit about us as a corporation. Tribes have several corporations. The Section 17 corporation, we're wholly owned by the tribe as a federally chartered corporation. We're a for-profit entity. The money we make goes back to the tribe to support the tribe in providing services here on the reservation. We're part of a family of corporations. The tribe is very proactive in doing this because we can't tax. So this is our alternative. We create corporations to provide revenue.
But I noticed you don't have native fish keepers up there.
Not yet.
Okay.
That's a good catch though, Ken. I appreciate that. So of course, we purchased this facility 2015 after 40 years of planning. And the tribes turned over operations then to us, Energy Keepers, and we serve as a co-licensee with the tribes, implementing that license and running the facility, maintaining and managing it. I'm pretty proud of what we've been able to accomplish down there. When we took it over, there was quite a backlog of maintenance. In another presentation, I'd be glad to share with you the success we've had in investing over $28 million down there and basically rebuilding the whole place. Pretty phenomenal. So I always start with the history on this. Of course, you all appreciate what it looked like pre-dam, and on the upper right, that's probably taken in the spring. I'm guessing 40 or 50,000 cubic feet per second going down the river right there. The falls that the dam exists on is covered up in the water, but there was a slight falls, not a tremendous one, right there where the water starts to spill down into the gorge then that goes around below the dam right now. Picture on the lower left is also taken in the summertime, as evidenced by that cottonwood tree hanging out over the water that's fully leafed out. Notice how low the lake is. So the lake, that's to make the point that really the top 10 feet of the lake is a reservoir, is a power generation reservoir. So I try to establish that. A lot of folks don't realize that, especially if they're relatively new to this part of the world. They just think it's natural for a lake to be full. And I'm here to tell you it is not. A little bit on the hydrographs. You guys will appreciate this. The one on the left is lake hydrograph. The one on the right is a river hydrograph. The lake is really to illustrate how it operated or how the lake level was impacted through natural conditions pre-dam. The average high elevation, 2888. There's a low high elevation of 2883. That's our low elevation today. We rarely reach that. The high elevation in that is also something to be paying attention to. 2896, that's 3 feet over full pool. And those would have all been natural. Pre-dam, there was nothing here at the time. So that really illustrates then the impacts of what occurred with the license as we put it in place, or the previous owners put it in place. The dotted line you see at the bottom of that spaghetti graph on the right is our minimum in-stream flows. To illustrate the minimums are really minimums. So a little bit about the license itself. It's license number 5. It's now the Salish Kasanka Kalispell project. These are 50-year licenses. This one was issued in 1985 to the Montana Power Company and the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Tribes as co-licensee. Today, it exists as co-licensee to the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Tribes in their Section 17 Corporation Energy Keepers. There's 80 articles in this license. 25 of these are mitigation articles, and those were all added in 1996. Many of those having to do with fish and wildlife mitigation for the Flathead Indian Reservation. Specifically related to management of the lake, there are 5 articles. Article 12, 43, 56, 60, and 68. I'll run through those individually now so you get a good feel of what the law and the license indicate. We'll start with Article 12. You'll hear a lot of folks throw this out in public and say, we have an obligation under Article 12 to manage for recreation. That's not correct. What Article 12 is a preservation of FERC's authority to balance the purpose of the license, which is power, and that's what Federal Energy Regulatory Commission issues licenses for hydropower. That's what they manage under the Federal Power Act. They have an obligation under the Federal Power Act, which is the quote you see in the top, taken out of the Federal Power Act, to consider and balance many things as they consider those licenses. And so the license is a reflection of that balance. So the license is really an authorization for the licensee to develop power, and then it has to take into certain considerations. Article 12 preserves this authority to FERC. It doesn't mandate anything. It just preserves the authority to FERC to make these changes or make these license amendments if necessary. So that's what Article 12 is. It's not a prescription for anything. What the prescription is starts with Article 43. This one's a specific license for our facility. What it does is it authorizes storage of 1.2 million acre feet. And that's an illustration of it in the 2 pictures you see taken of East Bay. The one on the right is a couple weeks ago when we were about 18 inches or close to 2 feet over full pool, and the one on the right is full pool. When you think back to that graph that I showed you of the lake elevation, you can start to imagine that the lake was primarily what you see on the left, not the right, all year. When you have that on the left and not the right, you would have a pretty lush riparian area around the lake, which in fact was measured in part of the 4E conditions, which is a story for another conversation. So that's what the license authorized, is for the licensee to store 1.2 MAP in that top 10 feet. That's the reservoir. That has a limitation in it, that article does. It's a specific limitation for flood control. It establishes maximums that we have to manage to in order to accommodate flood control in the spring. These are maximums, not minimums. They're not, the maximums are not required minimums. So for example, 2883, if conditions allow, we try to get that by April 15th to create a hole for flood control purposes. It can't always be reached. For example, when you think about the rock shelf at the bridge, at minimum pool, the most water we can get over that rock shelf is 3,200 cubic feet per second. So when we're at minimum, and we've only been able to achieve minimum pool once since we've taken over the facility, because you got to think as you get closer and closer, then the amount of water that you can get over that rock shelf gets lower and lower. If you get an early melt off, February, or a valley snow and that melts off, which is not uncommon for us, we'll get inflows that'll flash up 5,000-10,000 cubic feet per second into the lake. When that happens, the lake naturally has to come up in order to let that water out. So that's typically what happens. And so we rarely get to that 2883, except on really dry years, we could get there. This year, we could get there if we wanted to. So we work with the Army Corps of Engineers, and I'll get into that in a moment, to get relief from these requirements. Then as we fill the lake, we try not to fill it too fast, because if you fill it too fast and you have a normal hydrograph and a cooler spring and you get a bunch of rain in June, you better have a hole for it or the lake's going to overfill by itself. We won't be able to evacuate. That in fact happened in 2022. It overfilled by itself. Okay, so those are specific article for authorization of the lake levels. The lower Flathead River looked like this prior to our implementation of quarry conditions in 1996. You take a hard look at that hydrograph. The previous owners used it to balance their entire system. We saw lows at 9 or 4,000 cubic feet per second, and times during the day as high as 14,000 cubic feet per second. That was their maximum generation capability. They would do that every day to balance their system. You can imagine the impacts on the lower river. So that really led to all of the license, a lot of the license articles for the lower river. So one of them was the minimum in-stream flow establishment. Prior to this license article we placed in there, the only minimum in-stream flow was a flat 3,200 cubic feet per second year-round. That didn't reflect at all the natural hydrograph of the lower river, so it was placed in there then under this article. That dotted line reflects the text on the right. So it ramps up to 12.7 through May 16th to June 30, and then ramps back down, control ramp down till June 31, and then we're back to 3,200. Okay, drought management plan then was called for in Article 60, also an aspect of the 4E conditions, and this was to assure provisions necessary to facilitate compliance with lower river minimum in-stream flow requirements. So specifically, look at Flathead Lake flood control. That was the directive of Article 60, to assure that you're going to meet the lower Flathead River minimum in-stream flow requirements. That's what was required. There was a draft filed in 2002, an EIS completed by the BIA, took them nearly 10 years. No record of decision issued. It exists as a draft plan right now. Our response is pretty direct in saying that we should implement this. We don't agree at all. The prior plan actually sacrificed the lower river to keep the lake full and asked for water out of Hungry Horse to do the same thing when there are no requirements to do so.
So BIA was in charge of writing the plan.
BIA was in charge of doing the EIS, so the secretary could either accept, reject, or modify. You'll see that in the last sentence of the license quote there.
And why wasn't it signed?
Good question.
Okay.
No.
What is the acronym NOS?
No School National Organization to Save Flathead.
Oh, okay. I get the mail.
Yeah, so do I. So we've had a lot of back and forth with them of late, as well as, of course, I bet we're over 50 comments now, just being imperfect. Okay, we're in the process of developing an updated drought management plan to file with the secretary that takes us to a different place. The other article to be mindful of in all of this is Article 68, which is an article specifically, again, a 4E article to take care of the waterfowl production area managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on the north shore of Flathead Lake. The original license required a concrete revetment all across the north shore to curtail erosion that was happening at an alarming rate at the time, feet per year, literally getting eroded away on the north shore. After many years of contemplation, because nobody really liked concrete revetments, where the entities ended up, which included the current licensee at the time, PPL Montana, in consultation with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Montana Fish, Wildlife Parks, and CSKT, ended up with gravel beach revetments. In order for gravel beaches to work successfully in Flathead Lake, you have to avoid them getting hammered by waves when the lake's full especially as you get towards the fall when storms start to pick up. So those gravel beaches were concurred with the condition that the licensee draft the lake to 2891 no later than October 31. So we're required to draft the lake by the end of October to curtail erosion. This has really been successful. Over 20 acres of habitat increased since 2015. So the assertions being made early on that bringing the lake down last year was an impact to the lake's ecology negatively was simply not correct. It was actually a positive impact to the lake ecology. Holding the lake full is detrimental to the ecology of the lake. So a little bit about what actually happened last year. This is a picture of water supply on a monthly volumetric basis. This comes from the Northwest River Forecast Center. We get a lot of data from them, feeds into us to help us determine how we manage the lake and the river through the facility. A couple things you can see on this is really telling. The green dots are average. The blue bars are actual. Only 1 month out of the water year was above average. All the rest of them were below. And specifically June, July, and August were significantly below average. And that really tells the story of how the snow came out. You know, recall last year, at this time last year, so we're towards the end of April, I was still shoveling snow at my house. I think you were too, probably, Ken, I'm guessing.
My wife was complaining the whole time.
Yeah, it's like, man, is this winter ever gonna end? Started at the end of October and it never ended. We got snow that never left, which was really unusual for us. Typically we don't get that here, but we did. So then we got May, 1st of May, temperatures went to nearly 90 degrees, 80 plus degrees. And the runoff happened at an alarmingly fast rate. And so that's reflected in volumetric that you see there by month. That resulted in then this picture of operations as we went through the year. A couple of notes there. You see our operations are in the orange. So there's a lot of it here. I'll take a little bit of time to describe this graph. So you get flows on the left, lake elevation on the right. The dotted black line is lake elevation. Everything else is a hydrograph CFS. You look to the left. So lake, you look to the right. Elevation, look to the left. Of course, time across the bottom. This is really valuable in that there's no place you can look at all of the information to see lake inflow and outflow together. It doesn't exist. So we build it so a lot of assertions can be clarified as you look at this graph. You can see, first of all, we did achieve, in fact, full pool. We got to 2892.8, 2/10 from full pool a little bit early. I'll get to that in a moment. The bigger picture here I wanted to look at year round, as you can see, we were pretty low all year as far as production. We don't have the average comparison for the orange line there. If I did, you would see how far below average we were in generation, and then the little bit of spill we had, all below average for the entire year. In fact, it was the lowest megawatt production year on record for the facility ever. And that's a direct relationship to how much water is available. So pretty clear, we didn't sell any water. Here's a bigger picture of what happened for us to achieve refill. A little farther to the left is we got the first AOK from the Army Corps not to go to empty, so we didn't. Then we got several more relief from the Army Corps. As we went through refill, they allowed us to bring it all the way up to 2.3 feet above normal at the end of May. So remember that end of May number is usually 2890, allowing 3 feet of room from the end of May till the middle of June. Last year we brought it up. We were only 7/10 from full by the end of May. And then we got to the 28, 2.8 on June 14th. Then you look down at the hydrographs, you can see we brought to minimums as fast as we could, given the Army Corps of Engineers AOK to do so. And then immediately the inflows went below outflows, which is highly unusual. Back to that first fighter graph I showed you, or spaghetti graph I showed you on the right. There were no outflow situations pre-dam that went below those minimums, none. And you can see that one right there. That one's the most severe on record. There's been a couple since, but that one's by far the worst. So we went to minimums on June 1, we maintained the minimums, and then as the inflows went below outflows, the lake sags 27 inches by July 28th, and then we went down another 2/10 by the end of August. A lot of people say, well, why don't you go all the way to minimums, Brian? You maintained at 4,000. Yeah, we maintained at 4,000. We matched inflow. If we would have not matched inflow, the lake would have went up this far. Would have made no difference. So went to solve the problem. So it did benefit the lower river. So February 5, there was, like I said, 20 complaints filed last year. There's probably been 20 more since then, asserting that we're not following the license. FERC was really clear. They responded to those allegations. The quote, you complied with the operational requirements of your license in December 2023, and they went on to say, and you might have to do it again, please keep the public informed, which we're trying to do, so thanks for that help. Okay, a little bit about where things are headed then. This is 2022 and the temperature forecast. You guys all see this on a regular basis. You need to keep in mind we're on the far right of this graph. Also keep in mind, draw a line right there at 2030. That's when this facility was designed. And they always design looking backwards. Some of us are engineers in this room. We understand how this works. You pick up, you look at the hydrograph and you forecast going forward and say, well, it's likely going to be one of these scenarios looking backwards. Same thing with Hungry Horse, 1950s, looking backwards. And then you look at the forecast today, even if they're weighted to the top front 10 years, you take the average from 2010 to 2020, it is nowhere near where we're at today. And nowhere near where this forecast is going to take us in the next 5 years. So our models for this type of science are really suffering at the moment. These are small differences. This is 1 degree, you see. Oh, 1 degree, that's not much. And you're right, it doesn't feel like much. But what it does then globally to our weather patterns, and we need to think averages are driven by the extremes. And so these extremes in the lower right that we see more of is what we need to manage for and design around as we think about the operation of this facility. So the biggest thing it does is it starts impacting these cycles, the El Nino, La Nina cycles. So the La Nina cycle that we came out of at the end of 2022 was the end of a 3-year La Nina cycle. That's only the second one I've experienced in my nearly 60 years on Earth, and I don't remember the first one, and I wasn't paying attention. So they're rare to be going that long. But there's a point there is that it was colder and wetter, especially wetter. And then now you look at, we're in the second year of an El Nino, and it is one of the most severe El Nino cycles that we've ever experienced, with evidenced by our water supply. So we have to look at that and think about, okay, how do those small temperature changes impact our cycles that really drive extremes for us here in the Northwest? Of course, we had a continued El Nino forecast for water year 2024, and in fact, that is exactly what has happened. You see, this is the snowpack. You probably all watch this pretty close. The black line, of course, is us today. We're at the bottom. That purple line is last year. You can see we were significantly higher last year than what we are this year at this point in time. If we get any kind of weather that replicates what we had last spring, there's no reason for me to think that the inflows are going to maintain themselves above minimum outflows again. And in fact, a lot of our model runs are starting to show that. And then here's our forecast from NOAA. This is our extended forecast going through the summer. You see, these are percent likelihood of exceeding normal temperatures. We're 60 to 70%, or maybe 50 to 60% likelihood of being above normal for the June, July, August, and July, August, September, both periods. And then you combine that with the forecast for water, and we're below average. And we're, again, a 40 to 50% likelihood of being below average moisture-wise. So you kind of look at those and go, our likelihood isn't that we're going to get a cold, wet spring that'll relieve all this. It's not what we're seeing in the forecast. So our current water supply tells us, again, we go back to the monthly volumes. you can see we're about average going through the winter. Then we're starting into the below average cycle right now. We're forecasted to be below average for May, June, and July, severely below average for June, July, and August. We're in the 60 percentiles for those months. Here's something to keep in mind. This is based again on a model of average last 10 years, what could happen in the spring. It just shows you a temperature forecast that says we're not going to be there. And I showed you a weather forecast that says we're not going to be there. If we're not there and it's warmer and drier, what happens, especially if it's warmer, the water volume from June will push to May. So May could go up and June, July, and August will go down. That doesn't help the situation. We're already managing to fill the lake. We will fill the lake this year. But the likelihood that it stays full is going to be dependent on water supply in June, July, and August, which I suspect will go down from what's forecasted today. We're providing this now on our website, so you can go there and see this and see where we're at currently. And we'll continue to post this. What you see in the blue, excuse me, is the variability of forecast for the actual stream flow forecast. It's not the water volume forecast, that's the stream flow forecast that we pull in and model. And so you see the variability around that versus then the variability of where the lake could end up then as we go through the year, given what the potential inflow is. And we'll just march this through the rest of the year and you'll see that black line move from left to right and things will get tighter as we go on and we'll see where we end up. You can see that we already got the minimum April elevation coordinated with the Army Corps. We already have our eye on the maximum end of May elevation. For the flood risk management MOU, we're starting into those conversations with the Army Corps already with those. Back to this picture, it not only impacts how we get water, but it impacts then power demand. On the bottom are heating degree days in the United States. On the top are cooling degree days. So it's an energy measurement of how much energy is required to heat our homes and businesses and how much energy is required to cool our homes and businesses. And you can see the required heating load is going up, while the heating load's going down and the cooling load's going up. And what I tell folks is, I can stay warm when it's 20 below. Even if I don't have electricity, I start a fire. I put another coat on. You can't stay cool when it's hot. You gotta get into an air-conditioned space. If you don't, you just flat die. You look at the folks in Phoenix last year that didn't have access to air conditioning, they just died on the street. So that's the magnitude of the situation that we're dealing with, and we'll continue to deal with as we move forward. So my message is that we have climate forecasts that are continuing to call for increased temperatures, more dries. We're going to see more extremes in our water supply in the flathead lake. The hots and dries are going to get hotter and drier, but also don't forget 2022. When that atmospheric river points at us, we're going to get a ton of moisture. I have no doubt it will come. And you need to think beyond where we're at now when we get to that point when all of a sudden we don't have snow. As far as moisture, we have rain, and we have a rain-driven system. And we have a rain-driven system where it's wetter than normal. We need to be empty. Flathead Lake needs to be empty as we're going into the fall. The last time we came out of a severe El Nino was 2016. We were operating the facility at that time. That was the last severe one. In October of that year, we got 300% of normal moisture in October. It rained every day. The lake filled 3 feet by itself. So those are the types of swings that we can anticipate as we go forward. So really you need to think resiliency. These things are going to happen to us, and we don't have the luxury of the backwards look that we had for the last 90 years that this facility's been there. And the managers have tried to hold the water into the winter and keep the lake full. We don't have that luxury anymore. So we really need to be thinking, especially with docks and shoreline structures, you need to be thinking best practices in a resilient system. A couple feet now, but it might be more than that in the future. So we need to think about that. If you're investing in a 30-year structure as a dock, you should be thinking, well, if you want that dock to be functional for a longer period, it needs to be variable. And then lake level forecasts. we appreciate people need to know. So we'll do our best to keep people informed as we go through these changes in the world around us. So I'll pause there. Questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Recurring theme I keep seeing in the newspapers is kind of, well, we've had droughts before and it's never a problem. How do you respond to that?
So two things. Here's the quick response. You're right, we've had droughts before. We've never had a drought with these kind of temperatures. And you're right, we've had droughts before. They've never melted off that fast. That purple line right there, the slope of that purple line.
Yeah.
That was a record-setting event. It has never happened. And so you hear, well, the previous operators never had this problem. In fact, they did. In 2001, the lake ended Memorial Day week or Labor Day weekend at 2 feet below full pool. And they had to sacrifice minimum pools to get to within a foot of full pool. And then they had to sacrifice the minimum flows on the downward slope of the hydrograph to even maintain that 2 feet. Now they dug a lot bigger hole. The previous owners utilized the water in the lake to generate electricity into an artificially manipulated power market. Power markets were new at that time. That was only a year or two into the wholesale power market, which is a commodities market. And you may all be familiar, or maybe not, with Enron, the smartest guys in the room. If you're not, you should look at that. They actually manipulated those power markets in the West and drove them to their maximum. And in so doing, then, EPL Montana was an independent power producer like us. They generated right into those power shortages and made a pile of money doing it, and then turned around and asked us and the Bureau of Reclamation to release some water out of the horse and sacrifice our minimum in-stream flows so they could get the lake back.
Didn't Enron bankrupt Montana Power and all the employees lost their life savings?
Enron didn't do that. Montana Power Company did it on their own.
Was it it used to be on public radio where it was associated with Enron somehow?
It was associated with deregulation of power. So Enron and others were all lobbying for deregulation of power to allow for investor-owned utilities to basically shove off generation assets that were paid for and sitting on the books and not generating any profit for them. Those went to independent power producers that then could generate and sell into a market. And that market is what drives the price. Enron took it a step farther and manipulated that market by shutting off some of their generators and causing a false shortage of power. But Montana Power Company did liquidate their assets like other folks did in that arena, and then went on to try to get into telecommunications, which they ultimately. So that was sort of my response, Ken. I was a little bit long-winded about the previous operators didn't succeed in years that were maybe as dry as this one. 2001 may have been less volume than this past year, and they didn't succeed. So, any other questions? Okay, it's it. An earlier copy of this to Clayton. If you want this one, I can send it as well. It's got today's drafts in it. So you can have it as people come at you and ask questions, or
send it to Ethan and he can get it done.
Okay.
Yeah,
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we get bits and pieces, but I think the biggest piece for us is sort of out in public. Everyone is sort of individually hearing different comments, and it's not always easy to respond.
Correct. And so here's a couple things to keep in mind. And I share that. I mean, I have some good friends in Townsend who my wife went to college with, and we know a lot of the community in Townsend's pretty small, so a lot of connections there. So we're over there for Christmas celebrating her 60th birthday. And at the birthday party, one of the friends came up and says, "Brian, how you doing? It's been a long time. Good to chat." And he says, "Man," he said, "I was over, he's a caterer. So the catering wedding out there at Finley Point, right down at the barn." I said, "Oh, you're right close to the house." He says, "Yeah." He said, boy, the conversation was all about the lake. He said, I feel sorry for you. You really didn't have a choice though, did you? I said, no, I didn't, but why do you say that? He says, well, because the tribe told you to sell the water. This is a person in Townsend has no idea what's going on, but that was the information he had. So I took a quick opportunity to say, no, that actually didn't happen. So this is what did happen. But that's kind of a result of what I think we all face in today's world. It's surprising to me when I summarized all the information back to FERC, we had a list this long of public outreach, including a newscast from Pawtucket. That has never happened. The entire newscast for that evening news was all about this story, and they did a really excellent job. In spite of all of that, we still get accused of selling water or not managing the license correctly. And no, that didn't happen. This isn't the driest year on record. It's like, no, that's what the data is really clear. So appreciate that, definitely. So anytime you need additional info, just holler and we'll send it your way as you stare this down. Also, the other thing you'll get a lot of is the National Organization Save Platted Lakes continues to assert that interveners and they're in a dispute with us. That's not true. There is nothing to intervene in. We are implementing the license. There is no dispute. They are complainers. FERC has addressed the complaints. We're addressing it within the license. So there's nothing to continue to have a long debate about. We're implementing as we need to with the conditions for the license, and we will continue.
Ryan, can I add one thing to that?
Yep.
There's a fresh one. On April 14th, those will put out a press release on media. And it's nice because they praise tribes, they praise the energy keepers for taking efforts to not dropping the lake a full 10 feet for working through the U.S. Corps. I mean, Corps farming engineers. But while praising us, they have an outright lie, created information which they're passing out there as truth. It says, try to get it really. They plan to limit the drawdown to ensure the lake's level is maintained at or near full pool for the summer. That's a heck of a promise they put on our back and reputation, which is not true, not said anywhere. But I'm suspecting they've put it out in the letters, their list of constituents, whoever receives the letter. I noticed they altered it on their website, a little different, and they had it printed in the Valley Journal. So this is why we now have a weekly update every Monday. You'll see it on the website, energykeepers.com, which is the information that our forecasters are looking at and is the best snapshot of what's going. But it's kind of puts us in this bizarre position of all kinds of challenges, I guess. Why they're doing this, I don't know. Why would they muddy it? I don't know. They think it helps. I suppose they think it might, but I think it's confusing the population further. People in the tribes are calling me and saying, we're getting calls from people that say you promised to keep it up and they're very happy. I'm like, well, that's not correct. And we're working to dismantle that as we can.
Right here, you can see it back across every Monday. We'll put a new graph there. Use a mark straight to the right. And any notes that we think are prevalent for that particular week, we'll have them.
So on that graph, the blue it's thicker in places and thinner. Is that just a range of where it could be? Or?
Yeah, it's range of where it could be. And think about it like this, and as it's through the spring freshet, the variability gets really deep. As the spring freshet's gone, it gets less and less and less.
Oh, okay, I get it. Right.
Well, we know where to get the information, we know where to find you, so this is a good touch point. So I'm thinking it might be useful to, as time goes on, if we gather additional, hear more, if you have more questions, we have access to Ryan and Rob, and maybe later in the season or toward the end of the season, whatever you feel is necessary, we can bring them back and see where we're at. But obviously there's a lot of information out there that we can also point to and say, well, go to the website, read the license. Those requirements are those that are being met.
Yeah, this gave this similar presentation to the Northwest Montana Realtors Association in Kalispell. They have it posted on their website. We haven't linked to that, but we may. I'm chatting about that, so you can see it there. And there'll be some of the summary slides that Rob and I are contemplating making available, so it's right there. People can go look at it and chase it down. So trying to be transparent, we know that these aren't decisions like the past operators may have probably lobbied the Army Corps of Engineers and asked the tribe, hey, sacrifice your mineral industry and flow so we keep the lake full. We simply said, that's not us. And we're in a situation unlike them. They were, to be fair, they were always trying to maintain a full lake as long as they could, because the ideal is at that time, store the water in the summer, use it in the winter. And now we have times in the summer, August and September, where we see power demand, the need for power in the region, matching the need for power in the winter. So the January 23rd, when we're 23 below, and some people said, Brian, that's not cold enough. I was 40 below. Well, we were up on the hill a little bit, so we were a little bit warmer. So we're setting records. And power, we literally used a little bit of water we had, generated power into that, combined with power that we brought into the region, energy keepers brought into the region, and really curtailed brownouts across the Columbia Basin. Help to keep the lights on here. That's where our power comes from. So we help solve the problem. Those same problems exist in August. You know, when it's 120 degrees in British Columbia and Seattle and Portland are clocking records in the 100 teens, that power demand is similar to what we see when it's 130 below.
I read yesterday that BC's wildfire season's already started.
Yeah, I'm surprised with that.
So another question for Mike. Do bull trout play any role in how you operate the dam?
Yeah, bull trout were not listed at the time the license articles were put in place. But certainly now they're part of the question for minimum in-stream flows, and they're certainly what drive the management of Flathead Lake in the spending of the mitigation money that we still provide to the tribes for mitigating Flathead impacts to Flathead Lake. And beyond that, they're an integral part of us as people from a cultural perspective. So yeah, there was
long run, who you contract power to over time, does that have any effect on,
you know, it's irrelevant. We have a whole portfolio of power sales contracts, and on some days we're generating more power than what goes to our contract that we have in place. Some days we're generating less. We make up the difference in the market. So what drives the generation at the facility is how much water we have available and what does the region need for power, not as what do our customers need. Ultimately, it comes to us in form of customers. Obviously, if we're helping the region out, we're selling it to people that need it. Other utilities primarily are driving that need down to even BPA at times. During January, we served BPA's loads in Montana. They didn't have the power to get here, so they contracted us. So it's really disconnected. That's what I tell people when you start to wrap your head around this whole business. The business side of energy is disconnected from the business side. It's not the same.
and when you say the region, so what is the region you sell power to?
So we have customers all across the West. We have Puget Sound Energy is one of our customers, long-term customers. The majority of our long-term customers are in Montana. There's about 20 or so wholesale power customers in the state of Montana. Folks like Stillwater Mining Company, Fairtruth Electric Co-op, the Benefits Health Center in Great Falls. Those are wholesale customers. We serve 14 of those customers are our long-term contracts that we have in place. And most of those are interconnected with Northwestern, and that's who we're interconnected with, Northwestern Energy's transmission.
So, how much effect is there on what happens in our region that comes from other regions like the California and Southwest?
All beginning to get more interconnected. The interconnection points are limited. You generate within a certain area, and then you have certain interconnection points, and those interconnection points can get over allocated, or they might in fact go out. There's a huge DC line that has to go out of commission for maintenance every year, extending from the Dalles, Oregon, down into California. And if that happens, then the ability to move power back and forth between the regions gets hampered. When it's all flowing, though, it's interesting to look at the power generated in California now through solar is actually has a tremendous impact on markets and the power needs in the Northwest, because there are times when they're giving away power, literally giving it away when it's sunny and they don't need that much in the daytime. It's got to flow or gets curtailed.
Yeah, I was reading like recently, 8, 9, 10 hour period in California where their green energy was producing more, all their electricity.
Yeah, they had surplus. But then as soon as you start going towards the evening, and if it's still hot and that solar quits producing, you get these super high demand spikes. And they're grabbing power from wherever. And it's all interconnected. When we helped out in January, we were bringing power from the Rocky Mountain region, which is Wyoming, Colorado south, up through northwestern to what's called mid-sea, helping to solve the problem here in Montana and in the region to the west of us.
There was a time when Kerr was Montana Power Company's largest power producing facility. Where do we rank now?
Before Colstrip, it was the largest of those facilities by more than twofold. So the biggest one is, other than us, is called Thompson Falls. It's about 98 megawatts maximum capacity with 208 maximum capacity. Downstream, Vista's two facilities are a little better than that. So I can't say we're the largest private one in Montana because of those two. Those two aside, we're the largest private.
Is solar and wind picking up in Montana?
Yes, wind especially. Solar is a lot harder equation for us. Got to think December 21st on a foggy day, you get in a couple hours of solar. And so if you wanted to have a facility that was solar dependent for 24 hours or off grid, let's put it that way, off grid, and you're going to do it with a solar plus battery, you need enough solar to run your facility and charge 20 hours of battery in a 4-hour window. So that 4-hour window, so you think about it, wow, that's a lot of solar to do that, solve that equation. So that's as we go north, that's more and more an issue. But on like now, or we go to June, man, we're good. As good as the rest of the country. So at times it's good. Wind, though, is especially an opportunity for us in Montana, more in the eastern part of the state than the western part of the state. And that's picking up. And there's some transmission limitations, though we need transmission to fix this problem. As we look to the future, which we've done a lot as we consider where this company needs to go, and working with the tribal council as a shareholder, it's phenomenal where the potential build out of renewable energy needs to go in the next several decades. And there's $450 billion worth of subsidies to get it started in 2 bills that went through Congress in the last 4 years. And the tribes have an opportunity to participate in that, and so do we. The amount of current renewable energy that's feasible to replace the fossil fuel and make up for the demand and increase in demand due to conversion of fossil fuel driven transportation to electric transportation. Think electric cars or buildings like this that might have been oil furnaces going to electric heating, or gas furnaces going to electric heating. All of that, when you put it all on paper and look at the math around that, we're talking enough transmission to circle the globe 3 times. That's the type of transmission build out we can see in the United States to connect load sources to need to generation sources. Think northern Montana to Seattle. There's nothing there. You got to connect that or we don't get there. You need enough wind turbine that will cover the Midwest region, 7 states. Tennessee, Ohio, that whole Midwest Ohio Valley region. Enough solar that will cover 4 or 5 state region in the East Coast that's equal to, let's see, 10 of our reservations, solar panels, I guess. And this build out is going to be rival anything we've ever done as a country in the past as far as infrastructure build out. And if we don't, that line, the forecast for temperatures is not going to, I mean, you look at the range around that, if nothing gets done and we get there a lot quicker. If something gets done, and what gets done is forecasted, we can slow that down, but it still doesn't change the trajectory is still up.
So I read somewhere in the last 3 years of Bitcoin mining operations were looking at coming here because of the dam power producers. Did anything ever come of that?
No, I mean, we're a wholesale power producer, so we talk to everybody who needs power. So yeah, we've had conversations with many Bitcoin operators, probably getting up to the hundreds, because they're such a power hungry industry. We've served one Bitcoin operator in the past, the one in Missoula. We no longer serve them that much south. There was conversations with us, their opportunity to build here and connect directly to our facility. We simply said no. Can't connect to our dam. We can serve you as a customer if you want to consider that. You gotta go figure out how to get interconnected to the grid. We'll serve you. And nothing came.
Okay, I was curious.
So you mentioned the 2 Avista dams. Those are kind of considered run of the river dams, aren't they?
They are run a river, and they are balancing dams as well. And of course, you go to Knox and Rapids Reservoir, for example, the next reservoir down, and you can feel like up and down every day.
Yeah.
So are you or Energy Keepers involved in the Columbia River treaty negotiation?
I've worked with the tribes. Energy Keepers is not a participant. The tribes are a participant. And so they have me participate as part of the tribal team. I've been interacting in that arena since 2004 or 5. My time in Portland got started and then just kept at it.
Well, thank you. Rob, you got anything to add?
Think of me when you hear things out there. If you are more ears to the ground, feel free to pass them to me. I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put up as many human antennas as I can to intercept the conversation. I don't live in the lake. I don't receive most full information. I'd like to kind of close this silly game that plays out at times. It's more confusing for all of us.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time. We'll get things better.
Unfortunate, I think similarly to the compact and to the ordinance, a lot of what we are dealing with is not based on fact of the law, is just based on political opinions, driven by those politics, not whether or not somebody understands the facts. Even so, but we still have to put them out there.
We won't stop.
Yeah, and same here. All right, any other questions, guys? Thank you.
See Q&A on the thing. Is that somebody wanting to ask me a question?
Is there
This is getting very everyone. Something else.
That's something else. Okay. Thanks, you guys.
okay, thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
And be safe out there.
We'll do. Thanks.
All right, guys, we have, I think, exhausted our. Roger looks exhausted. I'm exhausted.
That was good though.
Yeah,
Enjoyed that.
that was good. And you know, I think he'll send that to us. You can look at that more if you want, and of course the website, their website.
Rob, so like this presentation that we just had, would you give that to other entities?
I'm actually giving a very similar presentation tomorrow to the water management organization for the state of Montana. It's consolidated with engineers and system managers and whatnot. And Brian was gonna do it, got busy, so I'm gonna step in, give a very similar presentation.
Yeah,
It's on the Northwest Realtor site, kind of like yours was.
yeah.
I'm not sure if that's accessible by the public or not. I don't know if you need to be a member. Because I tried to find it independently and I can't get to it on the side of link. So it might be kind of hidden, but
This was great. It was jam packed with a lot of information. Yeah.
good solid information. I share it freely.
Yeah.
However you can. I don't know if it's captured or not. Nothing in that we're shy about. More people can see this, the better, I believe.
Well, if you can, if we don't already have it, if you can send it to Ethan.
Okay.
Then we'll have it.
The one that you did about a month ago, that's available to everybody, right?
Which one's that?
Is
that the one on my final day when it came up on the
Yeah,
screen?
yeah.
That is on our website, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
It's pinned up there.
On the EKI.
Yep. EKI has a YouTube page now, so all videos are going there. That was several people from our staff, Bureau recognition, and
Yeah.
Army Corps. So
That's real good.
I
we got a
haven't seen all
little
those.
technical places. Praise E. James on our staff who kept it.
Do you wanna end the meeting, Mr. Chairman?
Yep, thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay, guys, I think we did, any other final public comment? How's that? Any other, no public left to comment? Anybody online?
If anyone online would like to make a comment, do so now by raising your hand. Good stuff, Alex.
So Shane was there. I didn't know he was.
Yeah.
Hi, Shane. Glad you made it.
Yeah, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
Good. Did you catch all that presentation?
I did. It was good.
All right, good. Good deal. Final comments, George. Ken, Roger. Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Motion by Ken. Second by George. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, we're good. Thank you, guys. Thank